Alrighty, where we are now, it's the third week of September 2025. We're in a period of drought. This little spring-fed creek is still flowing only because there's a small spring way up in there. You can see that during periods of extensive rain, the water would be over my head here. But that's not why we're talking about this little creek. This little creek, I've been studying the history of this for many years. And the story of what happened here kind of goes to show how historical research is nonlinear. You study something and then you find out all that you can, and then years go by and then you add pieces to it, and then you forget about it and you do something else, and then years later it continues on. This little creek right here, about 2 or 3 miles outside of Denellen, Florida. Most folks just don't know it's here. There's a little bridge that goes over, but you wouldn't notice if you're not looking for it. Literally, people don't even know the spring is here. You can hear the cars in the background. This little creek made national news, literally national news, in 1901, and that story is still getting sorted out to this day in real time. I'll explain it as briefly as I can. The man that discovered phosphate in Denellen, Albert Vogt, a very interesting, charismatic fellow, to say the least. It's hard to use terminology to describe him the family would not get offended by. Very charismatic, outgoing, very bright and articulate. And he was a business person, all about making money. After the discovery of phosphate and the businesses that sprang up from that, Albert Vogt and his brother made they made several $100,000 in 1890s money. Hugely influential and wealthy people in their time. Albertus Vogt blew through his money very quickly. His brother, which was a partner in his business, died, as did his wife about the same time. So Albertus Vogt married his sister-in-law and blew through his brother's portion of the fortune. There's much more to his story, but it pertains to this creek. By 1900, Albertus Vogt had spent all of his fortune from the phosphate industry, and he was hooked on the lifestyle of being wealthy. So he decided to recreate the discovery of phosphate and discover oil. And he discovered oil in this creek right here. What he did was he buried a drum of oil in the creek. It soaked up and flowed down the creek. He discovered it while hunting. Then he called in the press. Literally, he called in the press. The editor of the Ocala Evening Star came to Denellen. They took a sponge and soaked up the oil floating on the top of this creek and set it on fire, establishing that there was oil here. It quickly made national news. Prospectors came to Florida. They bought up the mineral rights for land, including this land right here, which belonged to Candace Rollerson. Now, Candace, at that time, was a widow lady that owned the farm here, and we can only assume that she was in cahoots with Vogt because she was able to keep her farm and sell the mineral rights on the land underneath as part of the oil boom. Now, how does that tie in today? Our channel, our group, our team is involved in the intersection of preservation, historical research, springs protection, all the above. And so sometimes those things intersect, and that's what has happened here. We're actually currently involved in trying to get the state to purchase an abandoned phosphate mine in this area just a few miles away. As part of our research, we discovered there is an abandoned oil well on that property. In real time right now, folks at the state are researching any records on an abandoned oil well in this area on property we're already looking to have them purchase. And they have no idea because no one does. I'm the only person that sorted out that it all started in this creek with Albert Vogt burying a drum of oil and then soaking it up with a rag and setting it on fire for the newspaper editor of the Ocala Evening Star in 1901. We have that article. I've researched it, I've wrote about it, but never published it. But I guess now, that's the rest of the story, as of now. So this is actually a very historic place, and no one alive knows about it. Well, they will now when we publish it. So this is one of the most interesting, fascinating things I've done in historical research. The hoax oil discovery in Denellen, Florida, with an actual oil well that was sunk. Of course, there was no oil there. And we're still working on it. We're still sorting out that 1901 hoax to this very minute.